Yeah, in the SQLite, it's very easy and it's very, yeah, the name is light. Of course, it is very small and it is good for startup. If you want to make a very good database, maybe you can go to MySQL or Oracle or SQL Server, but it may require some additional tool. So you need to download, you need to install, and you need to set up, and it will take more time. So for this class, I will just use SQLite. And also when you configure the DB, okay, you need to enter what kind of engine you want to use. If you are using the SQLite tree, then you can just use the backend of SQL3. If you use MySQL, of course, you need to call the MySQL. If you use the PostgreSQL, then of course you need to use the Postgre. If you use Oracle, you need to use the Oracle. So you can get this on the settings. Oh, sorry, I think this one is in the database. Yeah, this is the engine. Because we are using the SQLite, then we have the engine only one. But you can also define multiple engine. Let's say you want to combine some database. You can define here. So name means the name of your database. If you're using the SQLite, then the database will be a file in your computer. In the case, name should be the full absolute path, including file name and of that file. So here, yeah, it should refer to the name of your file. In this case, the name is db.sqlite3. So this is the db.sqlite3. And this file is located in the base directory. The default value, for example, if we use the ospath.join base directory, will store the file in your project directory. So if you are using the previous Django file, yeah, the file location will be using this kind of path, but the new one just use the base directory like this one. And when you have the apps, okay, as I mentioned to you, you have the admin, out, content types, session, messages, static files. Those are the basic function for the web programming. So that's why people say that when you use Django, they already provide all those things. So you can access the web easily. So when you install the model, okay, I explained to you that you are required to make migrations. The migrations are very powerful and you can change the model over the time. So now you have questions and choice. But later on, if you want to add more tables, or if you want to add more columns, or if you want to change the attribute, yes, there will be some ways to do that one. So you don't need to delete your database without the need to delete database, or you don't need to make, or you don't need to delete the tables, or you don't need to make a new one. So you can just modify. So for now, please remember the 3-step guides to making the model changes. The first is when you change the model, yeah, in the models.py, when you apply something, maybe you add one statement or you delete one statement. it means the changes in the models.py. And then you need to run Python Python manage.py make migrations. So this is to create migration for those changes. And you need to run Python manage.py migrate. It is to apply the changes to the database. Okay. And some more explanation is like this one. The example that we used before, it is generated for the SQLite 3. So what I explain now is for the SQLite 3. The idea will be different with other database. For example, the table's name. The table's name are automatically generated by combining the name of the app. So when you specify the table in the models.py, you specify question, choice. Okay. So what does it mean by this question and choice? This is the table name. But when you open your database, the name becomes FAQ underbar choice, FAQ underbar question. So it is automatically generated in the SQLite 3 based on Django. So the table's name are automatically generated by combining the name of the app and the lowercase of the model name, which is question and choice. Primary key are added automatically. And by convention, Django appends ID to the foreign key field name. So if you click this one, question, you can see automatically about the ID. Even though you don't declare the ID in your table, but Django create automatically. What about in choice? Yeah, in choice, they also have the ID. Okay, it is to indicate for every row. The foreign key relationship is made explicit by a foreign key constraint. So foreign key constraint, yeah, it has a connection between one table and other table. So different databases have different field types for primary key automatic generators. So for example, in the MySQL, there will be a kind of auto increment. So whenever you have a new row, then it will be added one, auto increment. In the Postgre, they have serial. And in the SQLite, they have the integer primary key auto increment. So whenever you have a new data, the ID will be added by one automatically. The SQL migrate command does not actually run and the migration on your database. So it just print to the screen so that you can see what SQL Django thinks is required. And different database may have different ways to query the data. Okay. So what I will explain in the next session, which is about the SQL, the structured query language, it is only for the SQLite 3. Some of the comments might be similar to the MySQL or the SQL Server, but this statement and all the things I explained in this PowerPoint will be only for the SQLite 3. So let's try to do more about the SQL. When you install the model, when you want to use the SQL, you need to run some comments. So there is a command that will run the migration for you and manage your database schema automatically. That's called migrate. So you already know the migrate. When you run the previous one, Python migrate manage.py migrate. So we use this migrate function to migrate from our schema into the database. What you can do with this Python manage.py migrate, you put those comments in the terminal. You put those comments in the terminal in the previous example. But there is one simple way, not using the terminal, but we can use this run manage.py task. What does it mean by this one? Whenever you do this one, if you still remember this one, Python manage.py, blah, blah, blah. Python manage.py, blah, blah, blah. So we can reduce this one by calling the function. So you can go here in the tools, and then there is one section, run manage.py. When you click this one, there will be one section in the below part, and this is the manage.py. So you just need to write after the manage.py. You don't need to type Python manage.py, Python manage.py. You can skip that part. And then now let's do this one. SQL migrate FAQ 0001. So I want to migrate the SQL. The SQL migrate FAQ 001 means I want to create the table. And I'm going to use the SQL to access the data or the table, or yeah, I can do more things with this SQL. You can see here, it creates the table. Actually, you already have the table, but again, they create the table and put this into their own database in the server. And we also have the choice, and in the choice, yeah, we have this table. So I guess you can see this one. The FAQ is starting with ID, and the ID is integer and not null. And then it is the primary key auto increment. The question text, it is the variable character or the character field, and it is not null. And the publication date, it is a date time, and it is not null. So every not null means that the data should be available. Okay, you can see after you create, and there's one commit. Okay? So in the database, it is one comment to execute your SQL. And after we do this SQL migrate, let's do again migrate. Okay. Now we have only one app, which is FAQ. So I can just do migrate. But if you have several apps, you need to specify what is the app name. As you can see here, so you can specify what is the app name. Or there can be another parameter. For now, let's just do the migrate because we have only one app. And what you can see here, the new operation will be performed to the other kind of files, admin of content types, FAQ sessions. And yeah, the other migration has no migration to apply. Now we have the, as you can see that the FAQ choice, FAQ questions have the data. After you have the SQL, after you have the data, now we will learn how to access the data. Maybe the accessing the data is easy by using the table. You can just click and click, okay? But when you are developing your web programming, of course, it's not about the click. You need to make your code to connect your database into the HTML. So we need to know the SQL or the structured query language. I would like to explain in the Python shell. So first, before we do this example, I would like to explain what is the difference between Python shell and the SQL. So the Python shell, we use the Python code to access the data, and it can be used in the view and the template. For the SQL, structured query language, you use the SQL language in accordance to the database tool, and it can be used in the view and need to be translated into the template. It means, yeah, when you are using the Python shell, actually it is more powerful because it is connected to V and T. So I guess, yeah, I hope that you still remember. We have M, V, and T. M means the model, or it is related with the data. V is about the view. It is related how to connect the model and the template. T is the template. So in this chapter, we will adopt the Python shell rather than the SQL. If you want to access the data via the SQL, okay, this one is at home. So you can go to this query language, and then you can have a new query console. Okay. So here the QL means the query language, and you can see a new query console here. And yeah, the basic command of SQL is the select. Star means you can select everything from your data. From what is your table name? So I would like to use the FAQ question, for example. I want to select all data from the FAQ questions. So I can run with this play button, and you will see the result. This is the result from your SQL. Now, how if I want to access the data from the shell? We call it, this is the Python shell. Let's try to understand the basic query in shell. In order to access the DB, we can use the Python function in a shell. First, we run the run manage.py task, and then type shell, and then a new console will open. So you can go to tools and you can run manage.py. So there is a command here and you can type shell. Shell. Okay, here. So the shell will be shown in the Python console, or yeah, they call it the Django console. So you can go this Python console. You can see here now it is importing the Django manage shell. So we are going to use this Python shell. The first shell that we want to use is similar with the Python. Whenever you want to import functions or whenever you want to import a class, you will use from and then import. Yeah, I hope that you understand Python, because all this basic idea is from Python. Now you can see from FAQ models, import question and choice. So I would like to import the question and choice. And then if I do question objects all, I can see all the result, like where is neighbor. And if I do choice objects all, I can see the object one. So let me show you. If I do this statement, from FAQ models, import question and choice. Okay. And then next, I would like to check the question objects, and then I want to print all. So from the table question, I want to get the objects and I want to get all objects. And the output is 1. There is an object. Where is neighbor? What about the choice? Choice objects all. And here you can see that there is a choice object 1. Oh, why? There is no answer. Yeah, we have one row. We have one object. We have not declared the statement of this object, so it is remaining as a number. Why it is a number? Let me show you. With regard to this one, we need to check the models. Okay, in the models.py, you can see in the questions we have 2 columns, question text and publication date. And in the choice, we have 3 columns, and one actually is only the connector between the question and choice. What is it? So this is a statement in the Python. It is a function in the Python. Whenever you want to get the data in this table, you can show the question text. What is the question text? Where is neighbor? That's why we can see the result. If there is no function of string, then it will show same like this one. So the question object one. There is no declaration about the statement. So we will learn more about this. The basic thing that I want to share about SQL is CRUD. Create, read, update, and delete. CRUD are the 4 basic functions in any computer programming. The acronym CRUD refers to all of the major functions that are implemented in relational database, DB. Each of the latter can map to a standard SQL or HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, or DDS, Data Distribution Service. So for example, if I use create, actually in the SQL, it is insert. In the HTTP, you will use put or push. When you use the DDS, it will be write. When you use read function in the operation, in SQL, you use select. In the HTTP, you will use get, and in the DDS, you will use read or take. If you want to modify or update some data, in the SQL, you will use update. In the HTTP, you will use put, post, or fetch. In the DDS, you will just use write. And if you want to delete or destroy, in the SQL, you use delete. In the HTTP, you use delete. And in the DDS, you use dispose. So those functions are available in any programming language, in any network, in any domains. And we need to understand this one in our information system, which is in the data. So if you want to understand the root packages, you can use this kind of application to run the root system. So you can check if it is only related to the Python 3. So you can use the Django material packages. You can use the WQ framework. So those are the root system that is available in Django. I will not use any packages. Okay? I will just use the basic root. The basic root means you need to type by yourself. Because if you install the packages, maybe it also, you need to understand the basic structure of that packages. So I don't want to use the packages. Let's just learn a very basic one. So in the model example, just for your convenience, as I mentioned before, we can see the result, but the result is not well represented. It can be only based on the number, or it can be only based on the object. So for better representation, we need to add more functions. So you can edit the question model and add str method to both question and choice. Okay. You can add this one. In the models, you already have the self question text. Okay. Now I'm going to add this was published recently. Okay. was published recently. And then I need to add one more item, which is import date time. And I need to add one more, which is the self choice text. Okay, please insert those three. The first is import date time, and then next is was published recently, and the next is this one. Okay, 1, 2, 3. So add those three into the models.py. Okay, after you add into the models.py, yeah, I give the note here. What is this note? After you update any files, you need to make migrations, migrate, and then restart the shell. Okay, so this is not that convenient because it is not automatically refreshed. So you need to use this manually. So after you have the model updated, then you can go to run manage.py, and then you can call make migration, and then you can migrate. Okay, and you can restart the shell. So yeah, it will affect the modification. Okay, so we are going to understand how we want to add or modify some data. You already know the first statement. We want to get the question and choice. Okay, if you have this one, means we want to get the question and choice, and we want to use it in the shell. This is the Python command. We want to use the time zone from the Django utility. Now, let me create an object, Q. So I would like to make a new object, Q, and a Q is an object from the question class. I hope you already understand Python. Okay, so you will not have difficulties with this statement. In this class, you know that question is a class in a model. Question is a class in a model, and it has two attributes. So I put the first attribute is question text, and I put a new value. What's new? And then I put a new value to the publication date, which is timezone.now. Okay. So this is the first attribute, and this is the second attribute. Now I can run this. If you already create a new object, you need to save. You need to save into the shell, or you need to save into the memory, and you can get what is the ID. Now the ID becomes 2. So it means there is a new data. If you check here, question, if I refresh, now you will see the second data. This is the second data. What's new? And it has been created just now. Okay, the time is UTC, so it's not the Korean time. And if you want to know the question text, then you can call the object dot question text. So you don't need to use the bracket, because a bracket means a function. Now I do not have the function question text, I just have the attribute. So I can get what is new. This is the text, or this is the string. And I can also get the publication date. And it is in the time format. Date time is 2022 4587. So it means April 5th. Yeah, it is 8 o'clock, 7 minutes and 40 seconds. Now let's suppose I want to modify. The new, the data is what's new. And I want to modify it into what's up. Okay, I want to change what's up. Okay, so when I change this one, if you refresh this, it has not been changed. Okay, so you can change this console, or you can change the shell. So the shell means the Python environment like views. You can change it, but it's still not giving any effect to the data until you do the save. If you save, then you will see that now the data has been updated into the database. Okay. And let's see, I want to see all the data. Then we will see now we have two data. Where is neighbor, which is our first data, and the second data is what's up. To read some data, let's say if you, okay, you already have the import function. You already have the import function. Okay. Now let's make a new object again. Let's make a new object Q2. What is Q2? So the Q2 is from question objects, and we want to create a new object, and the question text will be what's your favorite pet, and the publication date is now. What can we do with this one? When you refresh, you can see that the data has been added. Okay. The data has been added automatically. It is different with the previous one. What is the difference? Here we use the objects.create. So when you use this objects.create, it is automatically creating the data in the database. But before, we just use the question, and then we put only the attributes, two attributes without object creation. So when we have this objects dot create, it will create a new object and put directly to the database. So if you want to see the data, actually you can use the upper arrow, lower arrow. So you can have, you can check what you already state before or what you already state in the next one. So I want to see all the objects. What are the objects now? We have three. So what is neighbor, where is neighbor, what's up, and what's your favorite pet? Now there are some different kind of function to read data. Now let's see one by one. Question objects dot filter. ID equals to 1. So I want to see what is the object when ID equals to 1. I can also do the same with the filter when the PK. What is PK? Oh, I cannot put it higher. PK means primary key. So the primary key is the same with the ID. If it is different, then you can use the primary key with different values. When you have the filter, you can show the text. So I want to check, I want to filter the data when the question text have the word starts with what. So you can see here, the first data is where is neighbor. The second data is what's app. And the third data is what's your favorite pet. When you filter with this, you will see only two data. Okay. Starts with, it is a function. So the built-in function here can be used with two underline, and then call. What is the function? So there are some functions. I think I put it somewhere later. Yeah, I put it in the next part. Okay. So now let's just run this example. Let's see if I want to see whether the text contain head. So contain means, yeah, if it is start, so the first text, yeah, is the starting point. So it will check from the starting point. But if it is contains, we don't care the location. Anywhere of the text, if there is the word head, we will show it. So there are two. What's up and what's your favorite pet? Now, let's say if I want to see the values in this section. Every time I want to see the data, it only shows the query set. What is the meaning by query set? It is a kind of object, and inside that object there are many other items, or there are many other data. So if I want to see the values, so use the objects filter question text underbar contains what, and then show all the values. When you show all the values, yeah, in the query set ID number 2, it shows up here, and then the question text, it shows up what's up, and then the publication date, it show up here, and then the next is about the ID 3 question text. What is your favorite pet? Publication date is this time. So we want to see all the values of the data. Okay. And let's say I just want to see the values. So I just want to see ID and question text. So I do not want to see all, because we have publication date as well. So I do not want to see the publication date. I just want to see ID and question text. So I can see ID 2 question text, what's up? ID 3 question text, what's your favorite pet? And if I want to filter based on the respective ID, so I want to see the ID 1 and ID 3. Then it will show the question where is neighbor, which is ID 1, and then the question 3, where is what's your favorite pet? Okay. Okay, I guess I need to stop here.